Hello, welcome to this week's edition of the Beaver Banter podcast. I'm Nick Daschel, and I cover Oregon State football for the Oregonian and OregonLive. We're going to be talking about Saturday night's game at Research Stadium, where the Beavers lost to UNLV 33-25. Oregon State's lost two consecutive games, stand at 4-3, heading into this week's game at California. Joining me, as always, is former Oregon State defensive end Isaac Hodgins. Isaac, you were at the game last night. What were your top line thoughts from that one?
Oh man, that was a tough loss for sure. My main thoughts of that one was there's just too many one-on-one situations where guys didn't win. UNLV beat us straight up. They beat us in a lot of one-on-one matchups, whether that's O-line versus D-line or that's wide receiver versus defensive back. We just didn't win enough one-on-ones last night. That was my impression, at least.
Yeah, I don't know where to begin on this one. I guess maybe we'll start on a high note. The defense actually was. I mean, I that's what I would say coming out of this is the defense was the kind of the positive thing to come out of last night, even though they still gave up 33 points and whatnot. It was better than a week ago. I mean, they made some changes. Tavita, I never know how sure how to say his last name. I think it's Palme. Tavita Palme returned to action. He was back on the defensive line. They moved Dylan Sikorsky back, played him on defensive line from offensive line. They had Andy Alfieri back on defense again from tight end. Alton Julian made his 2024 debut. So they made some changes. I mean, I had heard some coaches spent some nights in the Valley Football Center last week because it was kind of an all hands on deck type situation after the Nevada debacle. And I mean, it looked like they were, better prepared for, which was a good UNLV running game. And if you look at the stats from this one, the Oregon State gave up 188 yards on the ground, which doesn't sound all that great, except UNLV is fifth in the country, and in running offense, they average 260 yards a game, so that's better. They gave about half of what they gave at Nevada, which was 353. So that's roughly half of what they gave up at Nevada against a better running game. I mean, we texted a little bit during the game, and it sounds like from what you saw, at least from an organization standpoint, it was better.
For sure. I think it showed too. I mean, I was watching Coach Bray's interview. You were asking about the run defense, and there was a huge step up. That's kind of what we said last week of like, that's priority number one. Like, if you can't stop the run, you don't have a chance at winning the game. So they gave themselves the best chance just because we were able to stop the run or minimize it. We gave ourselves a better chance to hang in the game. That's kind of what we said. Like, take one of those offensive linemen who hasn't been playing a lot, put him in D-line and let him two-gap. And I'm surprised I saw Dylan. It's funny watching offensive linemen play defensive line because he's strong. He's a strong guy. I saw him literally lift up an offensive lineman one play, but then he didn't really know what to do afterwards. So he kind of just tried to grab at the quarterback. But, I think he just needs some coaching up, and, he won't be too bad of a guy to have rotating in.
Yeah, I saw one time he was rushing the quarterback, and he kind of pushed his guy back, but then when he got to the next level, it's like, what am I? It was like, yeah, it just kind of stopped right there. But mainly that's a guy you're putting in there to just kind of plug a hole, aren't you? I mean, you're
seeing him on there on passing downs. I was like, wow, they're really trying to make him play defensive line. If he's not careful, he might have a permanent change.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe that's what he wants.
Well, I mean, he wouldn't be the first guy to move from offense to defense, but I mean, what is the difference between an offensive and a defensive line besides size? Is it the mentality? Is it
probably say brain cells and IQ? Defensive line were way smarter, obviously, than those offensive linemen. So,
oh my God, that is not what I've ever heard.
They always make fun of us. They're like, "Oh, see ball, get ball," but defensive line's pretty easy compared to offensive line. I mean, you just kind of go forward and blow the guy up in front of you, and good things will happen.
Yeah, you got to be more aggressive as a defensive lineman,
Oh,
don't you? Isn't
definitely.
that,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
yeah,
don't get to double team people, and you got to play football like a real man. It's 1-on-1 or 1 versus 2. Offensive linemen, they like to gang up on people. Defensive
yeah,
linemen, we're the real men. We kind of take on 2 people. You know what I mean? So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Okay, Isaac.
I'm gonna get a lot of offensive
I'll
line heat.
mention that next time I see Josh Gray, I'll mention that to him.
Yeah,
That
let them know. I'm gonna get them.
Isaac said real men play on the other side of the ball.
It's true. Anyone could go to a practice and go watch pods, and you'll see 2 offensive linemen versus 1 defensive lineman. So, I
Yeah,
mean, it's the world we live in. It's all right.
yeah.
Someone has to do it.
So, I mean, last night was just more than they played harder than they did Nevada, wasn't it? There was some schematic or some technical things that
It
happened last night that were better.
it looked like they played more straight up. There wasn't a lot of movements, which was I think they're kind of trying to move away from. Obviously, just because it seems like the movements hurt us versus Nevada a lot more than they helped us. So what I saw is I just saw a defensive lineman taking off the ball and taking their dude 2 yards into the backfield. And that seems like the kind of ball they like to play.
Yeah.
And if you could do that and let your linebackers flow freely, I mean, you got to run defense.
I mean, it wasn't perfect, obviously.
It
The
wasn't
the the
perfect.
quarter the quarterback for UNLV had plenty of places to run last night,
Oh yeah,
at least for quite a lot of the game.
we just
It
minimized
felt
it a
like
bit.
the what's that?
We just minimized it a bit. That's
Yeah, it felt like there was room for him to run on the edges for sure
oh
last
yeah.
night.
That's what
But
I was gonna bring up actually is I think that's kind of where the weakness is right now still is our edge defenders. It's like it's kind of inconsistent. It looks like they need to be coached up a little better on their techniques on either keeping the ball inside. Like there's a goal line play where, for example, when the offensive lineman goes away from you, as a defensive end, you're supposed to take the space out, right? So you take the space out, and then you're looking for anyone who's coming to block you. And if there's someone who's coming to block you and they run past you, you should assume as a defensive edge player that the ball's going outside because he's either going on a route or he's blocking someone outside of you.
yeah,
So it's just certain things like that where they were just running up field and creating vertical creases. I just think it just needs to be coached up better on the edges. I don't know who handles the edge players, but I think there definitely could be some growth there for sure.
yeah. What did you see? Alton Julian made his return to action last night. It's the first time he's played in about a year, and he really hasn't played much at all in 3 years. Um, First of all, I mean, you played with him for a long time. What do you think it meant to those guys to have him out there just for starters?
I mean, for one, it's just as a guy who's hurt for a while and you're kind of coming back to action and play, it's just kind of surreal and like it's just I mean, you're so excited, you're so happy, but then at the same time you got a job you got to do. So, but I know those guys were pumped up to see him out there and have him out there playing. And he was getting in there. He was getting physical in the trenches. He wasn't scared or worried, and that's kind of what you want to see. Um, but obviously, after playing football for the only way you get good at football is playing football. So
Yeah.
um, it was impressive to see him be able to hit the ground kind of running there. I know it meant a lot to him and everyone else around him.
Well, it looked like they played him. They would take the nickel out and put him in.
Yep.
Ultimately, I don't know where I mean, because he kind of plays the same position as Skylar Thomas, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, the good thing about AJ um, is he's kind of a bigger body. So he's one of the bigger bodies in the defensive back room. So you can
Yeah,
kind of play him at like that nickel, like you were talking about, kind of play him in the box almost like an extra linebacker, which will be
yeah,
good because you add some speed to those guys, in the front seven and some extra run support, but then you got another guy who could cover well. So it's good to see him back in the fold.
the once he's right, let's just assume at some point he's going to be, getting back into the flow of things. What sort of impact can he have on the run defense and the defense overall?
Yeah, I think it could be good having that extra body in there who's not afraid to kind of put his nose in there. Um, because defensive backs, let's be real, they kind of like playing pretty boy ball out on the edges. They don't like to get their hands too dirty. They don't want to chip a nail or something. But if you get a guy who,
Wow, look at you.
I'm taking shots today, man. I'm giving everyone the real uncut look at what it is in the locker room.
You're
But
you're kind of getting
if you
down
got
to
a guy who can tackle well and has
safety,
some speed,
but you're kind of getting down to safety weight right now. So
you said
you
what?
know, I said you're kind of getting down to safety weight, a
Nah, get
DB
out of
weight.
here. No, no. I'm trying. I'm trying, man. Those guys. Yeah, it's a different world out there.
Yeah,
I always got jealous during practice where I would see the quarterbacks and the defensive backs doing their looking pretty with their towels and kind of doing some agility drills.
yeah.
It's a different
Well,
world.
you know,
It's just nice to
yeah,
have. At the end of the day, it's nice to have the speed of AJ kind of in the box, and then he can
yeah,
also bring some physicality. So that's what I'm
right.
trying to say.
Yeah, I think yeah. Let's. I mean, when he before he got hurt in 21, I mean, he was one of your better players on defense, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was for sure. He was one of the players.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
he was having a great season, and then it was just kind of a fluke injury.
right.
To
So Oregon State's missing Jaden Robinson and Kobe Singleton and Noble Thomas, and I'm not sure. I know Noble's out for the year, and Jaden and Kobe, I mean, they could be back any time. But are you, with missing those three guys out there, are you seeing anything different from the corners or pass turf that might not be a case if they were out there? Or I mean, is there any cause for concern? I guess from a pass defense standpoint, or
Honestly, I see Andre Jordan's doing pretty well, and then um, who was it? Ayers stepped in.
yeah, Exodus Ayers, a freshman.
Yeah, man, he stepped in, and I think he stepped up big time. And I think getting those guys some reps and because that's the one thing you're missing when you have Jaden Robinson out there is experience, right? He's played a lot of football,
Yeah,
and so when you put a new guy out there, especially at a position that's so hard, like defensive, that's one of the hardest positions because you're out on an island. Um, and so I didn't see too much of a drop off, but um, and actually it was kind of impressive just because we weren't getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback, but there wasn't really a lot of. It didn't seem like there was a lot of drop back pass situations. It's more kind of
yeah.
rollouts and quarterback option, but um, it was good to see that we didn't have 500 yards passing on us. So that's a cause for concern when that starts to happen for sure.
Well, I mean, UNLV came into the game number 4 in the country in scoring and number 5 in the country in run defense. So I kind of think 33 points. They had less than 400 yards offense. I kind of think that was. I'm not gonna say it's a win, but it was. It was better for sure.
It was
And
surprising to see after last week for sure. If we would have
yeah,
played the same way we did last week, it would have been bad.
yeah.
But
The problem was Oregon State's offense last night, and the problem was it was good in the first half, and it's been good all season
yeah,
really, except for the second half against Oregon and the second half last night. I mean I mean UNLV got 2 gift wrap touchdowns, the fumble inside the 20, and then
yep,
when Oregon State had to go for it on 4th and a mile and didn't make it, that set up a couple of short field touchdowns. The first 5 drives of the second half, I think the cumulative amount of yards that Oregon State had was 22. It was it's not what we've come to expect. We've come to expect the offense to take the ball and control some clock and keep their defense off on the sideline. But
yeah.
that was not the case last night. I don't know. Did you see any? I asked a couple people about, did UNLV make a big change at halftime or something that all of a sudden flipped it in their direction, or Oregon State just not execute?
They didn't execute it. The what I was seeing is there were so many contested passes that the defense won every single time.
Yeah,
And so if you're a wide receiver, either one, you got to create some separation and you got to win in your route, or you got to win at that point of contest, right? Like if it's a tight coverage, like you got to win. Like at a certain point, our wide receivers have to kind of step up and like you got to win some situations. And then you go to offensive line, we're giving up. I don't know how many sacks we gave up last night, but it was abnormal for sure. It was just guys losing one-on-one situations. It was guys getting beat and they gave up a sack. It was guys getting beat and they dropped a pass, or it was guys just getting hit in the hands with the ball and they dropped the pass.
Yeah.
It's just not winning these one-on-one situations where you got to win. And it seems like for some reason in the first half we do really well, and then in the second half, kind of there's just this huge drop off of execution. And then there's obviously mistakes where we just shoot ourselves in the foot, where we're giving people short fields and turning over the ball. It's not winning football.
It was last night was the third time, I want to say, yeah, this was the third straight week Oregon State has had a double-digit lead at some point in the game and lost it. They came back in the Colorado State game, but they had an 11-point lead last night. They had an 11-point lead at Nevada at one point. The question was asked, why are you blowing these leads? And I didn't really see it as that so much as where is the killer instinct to make that 11-point lead a 21-point lead? Are guys letting up at all once, they get in control of a game? I don't know. Is that
right?
What is that? Is that just the sign of a young team or a team that, doesn't know what to do with a lead
Yeah, honestly, what my gut, like what I'm kind of seeing is just inexperience. You're just kind of seeing guys let off the pedal. Like there shouldn't be a difference between, obviously when there's a 2-minute drill, there should be some urgency and like, we're playing our best football, but you shouldn't see like a huge drop off of like, oh, okay, like these guys really turn it on when we're up against the ropes. It's like turn it on the whole time and kind of put the nail in the coffin. Like don't let these
yeah.
guys breathe. And so it's just a lack of experience, I think, of just like kind of taking your foot off the pedal. Oh, it's okay, 3 and out, it's all right. Then you turn over the ball. Then you're not making these catches that you need to, like you need to make these catches. I think that's the biggest thing I took away from last night. Like there's just too many drop balls. There's too many contested catches that we're not winning.
Yeah.
That's what I.
Well, I mean, when you were playing as you grew up through the program, I mean, you played on teams that were inexperienced, and you played on teams that were veteran. Do you notice a mindset at all? In those situations where you have a chance to really, put away the game, and you do, or you don't. Did you notice that when maybe you guys had a bigger lead when you were an inexperienced team that you didn't know what to do with it, or how did that work?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of hard to put into words. Um, I think just when you're on a team that is very inexperienced, you just kind of don't know what it is to like finish a season strong, right? Like you don't know what it is to kind of win a game and then come back in the next day and go back to work. It's kind of like you feel like you made it almost like, oh, I just scored a touchdown, like I made it, like where's the hunger of like, okay, yeah, you just got a sack on this play, why don't you go get another sack? Like, okay, yeah, you just scored a touchdown, okay, let's line back up, let's hurry up and get back out there so we can score another touchdown.
Yeah.
It's just there's just you just don't know what you don't know. There's the 4 levels of consciousness, right? And I think this Oregon State team is at the point of where we just kind of, I think we've gone from you don't know what you don't know, now you know what you don't know. Like, I think that's kind of where we're at. We know, like, hey, we need to start finishing some games and putting some people away. But, like, people are just like, I don't know how to do that. And so that takes, honestly, the hard part for the fans is it takes time. It takes experience, or it takes getting people in who have experience. One of the two.
Well, I think a good example of that would be like 2019 when you guys were trying to figure it out and trying to get to 6 wins in a bowl game, and it wasn't it wasn't really that experience of a team, and you go up to Washington State and you're leading by 10 or 11 late in the game, and last year's team or the 22 team, you guys put that game away.
Yeah.
But that 19 team didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
That's what appears. I mean, is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's just kind of it's something that's learned. It's like, it's just hard. Like I said, it's hard to say because it's just like like those 22 teams, 2021, 2022, 2023. We expected to win. Like that was we expected to win. 2019 and 2018, it was kind of like I feel like we're gonna lose, and if we win, it's like whoa, we won, rather than like we expect to win. Uh, and so that's just a culture that's kind of gonna have to be built, or what a lot of dudes in college football are doing now is either you buy it or you build it. One of the two.
Yeah. Does this situation feel like a team that doesn't believe entirely believe it can win yet, or
Yeah, that's kind of my sense of like it reminds me of it doesn't remind me quite of 2018, but some mix between 2018 and 2019 because one thing I will tell you is about that 2018 team is we had so many true freshmen starting. We had so many. I mean, it was me, John McCartan. I think we had a middle line. Uh, what was it Tufanga? Um, Tufaga. He was starting linebacker. We had a starting running back who was a freshman. Like we just had freshmen all over the place, just super inexperienced. Um, and I just feel like that's where this team's at. Is there's just not a
yeah,
lot of returning starters and people who could bring that experience of winning.
yeah. Another thing on the offense is I'm wondering how much this offense misses Jam Griffin because
Yeah, I
Anthony
agree.
Hankerson he looks like he's a back that, and this is the case with most running backs. Most running backs don't want to aren't that effective going 30 times a game. Yeah, they need some help. The sweet spot is at 15 to 22 carry range. And it just feels like if they had Jam, what they need, I guess, what I'm saying is they need a second option right now, and they don't
Yeah.
have that right now. I don't know. What do you see it?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's one of those things where, it's be careful what you ask for. Like as a running back, you're like, I want more carries. I want to be the number one guy. It's like, yeah, but you're not as fresh as you were when you had Jam, and he was going two plays, you were going two plays, and you were both giving your best. We were seeing your best. Right now, we're just seeing kind of he's having to shoulder all these reps and got the
Yeah,
weight of the team almost on his back because that's about all that's been working for us is the run game is what it feels like. Um,
yeah,
so I feel like you got to force feed this freshman a little bit more. You got to force feed Saladin a lot, put him in more practice and let him get more confident. Get him some confidence boosting runs and leave him in there. Like force him to grow.
right.
Because you can't. The last thing you want to do is have Hank in 30 plays a game. Now he's getting banged up. He's getting hurt. And that's the last thing we need.
Right. Well, okay, so the team is 4-3 right now, and I'm saying it's not we're not at panic level yet on this team. There's still some games out there that appear pretty winnable. Um, and even if they lose to Cal, I feel like it's still not panic yet, but the margin of error is shrinking for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the Nevada game felt like a win. Last night, break here or there, you probably win. You win. Um, I don't know. I mean, do you think it's panic time, or what do you think?
I don't think at any point it'll be panic time because I came into the season with the idea of like this is a rebuild year. And so if we make a bowl game, like I'm gonna be excited about that. Just because that's the reality of this changing college football terrain is just like people are leaving, they're coming and going, and you're almost having to rebuild all the time. And we're starting in a spot where we didn't get a lot of transfers in who are starting and making
Yeah,
plays. And obviously we got Darius Clemens, but he hasn't been playing all too much, and the pass game has been a bit iffy. Um, and so I'm a little concerned going into this Cal game because I know Cal, like they're a good football team and they play to the last play of the game. Like they're gonna play hard, they're gonna play physical, and we know they're gonna be their run game is gonna be something deadly. So
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting. You refer to this as a rebuilding year because, I mean, really, I think that's what it is. But the problem is, Trent was on this. He went to the players like right away and said, we can get involved in the CFP this year, and we have the roster to do it. And
yeah,
he wouldn't back off that. And it just felt like, okay, you've set the bar so freaking high
yeah.
that,
I
you
mean,
know,
but it's
I
hard too because the reality is you did have a shot at the CFP, and I just don't think like reality kind of strikes when you get all these injuries. You're very
yeah,
shallow. Like our depth is very shallow.
right,
You don't have the depth to be able to have dudes injured and be able to still make this run. Um,
yeah.
so at this
Well,
point,
my feeling, at this point, really is it's about getting bowl eligible. It's about getting to
yeah,
6 wins. You know, because you got to stay relevant if you're Oregon State. Once you start, getting out of bowl contention, you don't want people to forget about you, and that's what happens if you start winning, 4 and 5 games a year. And so,
right,
uh, but I don't think, like I said, I don't think. I think if you get to a situation where you got to beat Washington State or Boise State to get to be bowl eligible, that feels a little more panicky to me because both those teams are pretty good.
yeah,
I'm not saying that Cal, San Jose State, Air Force aren't, but they're not at this stage. They're not at the quality level of those last two, and so
yeah.
there's some wins out there if you can put it together.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, San Jose State and Air Force, there got to be some wins. Um, it's tough though because Cal's on the road, Air Force is on the road, Boise State's on the road. So are those all the road games?
yeah, those are yeah. San Jose State's a home game, and so is Washington State.
Okay, so I mean, if you could find a way to win these last two home games, that would be something. Um, I think that's
Yeah,
kind of your route you're gonna have to take. But obviously, you want to win every game, right? Um,
yeah.
but playing on the
Now,
road as an inexperienced team is hard.
well, next up is California, and Oregon State's facing a situation where Cal's lost 4 in a row by a combined 9 points.
Yeah.
I mean those are some heartbreakers. Speaking of, Justin Wilcox is suddenly on the hot seat. Social media is on fire. They all want to can Justin Wilcox. I don't, whether that's legit or not. I don't know.
Hmm.
Last two home games have been just gut wrenching losses. Miami, they blew a 25-point lead and lost. They blew a 13-point lead in the fourth quarter to NC State yesterday.
Mhm.
What's the mindset of a team like that when you go through a stretch like that?
I mean, their mindset's the same as ours. Is they're hungry for a win. The difference is they got home field advantage. So we're just gonna have to see who's more hungry for this win, but who's gonna be able to execute and who's gonna be able to win their one on ones. And if I'm Oregon State, that's all I'm focused on this week. Is I'm gonna win my one on one. I'm gonna beat the dude in front of me and do my job. If you go in there and you're kind of focused on I got to win a bowl game, or what if we lose every game this season, the rest of the season? Like you just got to go and focus. Like I'm gonna get better this week and win my one on one, and I'm gonna study film to focus on how I'm gonna beat this dude who's in front of me. Because Cal is hungry too. I mean, they're hungry for a win. Except they're at home. They're comfortable.
Yeah, but I'm looking at it from a standpoint. They were 3-0, and they're thinking the world. We've got the world. We're 3-0, and we've beaten Auburn, and we're on fire. And now
Yeah,
all of a sudden they've lost 4 straight games. They've gone from maybe being in the top 25 conversation and CFP to God. We may not win another game this year. They've lost 4 in a row.
yeah.
It's hard to believe they can go into Monday going, well, we lost 4 in a row, but we just got to do our job. I mean, at some point, that stuff starts to eat at you, doesn't it?
Well, it does, but at the same time, it's still so early in the season that yeah, you've lost four straight. Um, But if you win the rest of the season, like that's still a good season. And so
Yeah.
like the mindset is like it's still an early season. Like we still got a majority or at least half or close to half of the games left in the season. So it's not time to kind of. I'm not trying to fight here for Cal, but I'm just saying their mindset of like, hey, we got
Yeah.
Oregon State coming into our house this week. Like let's beat them up, right? Like that's their mindset. And Oregon State going in, you got to say, hey, these dudes have lost 4 straight. We're in the same boat. Like let's go take their lunch money. That's
Yeah.
just got to be your mindset. You got to win. It's a must win for both teams. So it's gonna be a good game.
Right. So Oregon State is a at least early on they're a 9 point underdog going into this game. But OSU's had a lot of success against Cal in recent years. They lost 2 years ago, but Oregon State's beaten the Bears 4 of the last 5 years. So it's
Yep.
not like it's not like there's a team that that they've had struggled with. They've owned Cal pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, you played at Memorial Stadium 3 times, I think, during your career. Well, did
Two
you
or three times.
21? Did you play there in 21? I can't remember if that was the year you were
No,
hurt
I
or
was
not.
injured that year. So 2 years. I think 2 years I played there. I was
Yeah,
there
so
for
but
that
you
game. I
played.
didn't play.
It was yeah, but I know during your career there was 3 games at Cal,
Yeah.
and of course the site of the memorable touchdown last year is.
Yeah.
Um,
Memorial
what
Stadium.
what's it like playing at Memorial Stadium?
Um, I don't know. It looked a lot different on College Game Day. I'll tell you that much. For
Yeah,
starters, um, but it's the Bay Area, so you already know there's not going to be a lot of people there, most likely. Um, I don't know how it is now because they're in the ACC, but College Game Day, that place was packed. I in my whole life living in the Bay Area, I've never seen Memorial Stadium look like that. Like Cal was always the game you would just go to where, it's a $10 ticket. You can sit anywhere you want in the stadium. Uh, so that's kind of the feeling growing up and then playing there. But who knows? I think on this losing streak, it's probably going to be somewhat similar to that. It's not going to be too loud. Um, but all the times I played at Cal, we've been up on them, and then somehow towards the third, fourth quarter, they start coming back a little bit. So it's got to be,
yeah.
you've got to be able to put these guys away. If you don't put them away, they're going to keep coming back. And obviously, that's something we're struggling with. Putting
Yeah,
people away.
I remember Jonathan would say on occasion when you're playing at a place like Cal, where they don't have big crowds, where you kind of got to go make your own energy.
Yeah.
Is that easy to do, or
Yeah, I mean, kind of bring your own. It's easy to do when you're making plays, and it's easy to do when you've got good leadership and experience going into places that are kind of dead. Um, but if you're a young team and you only get pumped up or fired up when there's 40,000 fans yelling and screaming, you're not gonna be very ready for this game where people are gonna be having their wine and cheese in the stands. So
yeah,
you got it, it's hard for this young team.
yeah. Um, yeah. One other question for you. Somebody asked me this. So let's say you go out on the field first series, and the guy you're playing against, you just decide, you own this guy. You're just better than him,
Hmm.
and you go. What do you go to the sideline and tell your coach, "Hey, I got this guy. I can," or maybe it's an offensive lineman or something that
Oh yeah.
says, "This guy I'm blocking is, I run to my side because I got this guy." Do the coaches listen much to you guys when you say that, or they go, "Yeah, okay, sure."
I can't speak from a coach's perspective because I don't know if they actually do listen to us. But there's been times where, um, like there's been times where I've told coach like, God, this guy can't block me. Like he can't block me. Um, and so maybe he won't necessarily change the play for me, but he'll tell me, hey, line up on that side, line up on his side, or hey, whenever Hodge is in, he's the 3 technique. Let him line up and win this 1-on-1. And so as a coach, you learn your players and you learn how to put them in positions to win. Um, and so within your own ability, you do that. But I don't know if Coach Lang's going to stick if a defense line coach is going to stick his neck out for you and be like, hey, Coach Bray, let's call this play for. unless I'm seeing something that, actually affects everyone strategically, not just me.
Well, doesn't it also come down to who's saying it too? I mean, I'm sure there's certain guys that think they win
Oh
every
yeah.
battle,
Yeah,
and so the
scouting.
coaches go, yeah. And then there might be other guys, if they actually say it, they don't say it often. So if they do say it, you listen to them.
Yeah, it's gonna be something. It's gonna be something received completely different if I say something versus Jaden Grant or Omar Spates. They're kind of like they're running the defense. I'm just kind of a pawn in it, so
Yeah,
it'll be a lot
yeah.
different.
Were there guys you played with out there that thought they owned everything and they won every battle
Oh
and they
yeah,
came to the set?
yeah. I mean, it's always funny as defensive linemen are like, "Oh yeah, they suck." I'm like, "Well, dude, why aren't we getting sacks and TFLs then? Like
Yeah,
let's make some plays."
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I think we've bashed last night's game into a wall. So
Yeah.
I think we'll just move on to next week and see what happens. I'll be down in Berkeley. You going to be down in Berkeley for the game?
Yeah, I should be there at that game. I'm gonna do my best to make it.
1 o'clock kickoff. Yeah,
Yeah,
you and
I'll be able to get a
20,000.
ticket, no problem, no
You
problem.
know, yeah, you might be able to just walk in. They might welcome you there.
Yeah, they're probably giving away free
Cal,
tickets.
Cal fans are really sensitive about their the way their stadium looks, because of the lack of fans there. They I know they think that they're you know they're up here, whereas they're really maybe down here
Yeah.
in terms of what.
The hardest part
I,
about getting into a Cal game is kind of weaving your way through the protests and whatnot.
yeah,
Once you're through all the college kids protesting, you're good.
yeah. I mean, it's a good stadium for sure.
It is. It
How
is.
far did well, I mean, you grew up in the Bay Area? How far away? How far did you live from Berkeley?
30 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
So I mean,
you went to some games there as a kid then?
yeah, I went to a ton of Cal games, and it was always empty unless we were playing unless they played Oregon, and then all the Oregon fans filled up the stadium.
Yeah, yeah. Did you go to Stanford games much?
Yeah, I went to like one or I didn't go to those as much. I probably went to a handful, maybe three. It's usually
Yeah.
I usually go to San Jose State games or
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's podcast. We'll be back next week to talk about Oregon State fared against California. Then they'll have a bye week next week, and so after the Cal game, and then it's on to November to see how Oregon State finishes this thing off. So we'll see you next week.
Stay strong, go Beavs.